the largest threat ever during his 23 years in power. Joining me now, Sarah Kendzior, scholar on authoritarian states and author of They Knew: How a Culture of Conspiracy Keeps America Complacent and Hiding in Plain Sight. Sarah, welcome back to the Sunday Show. You write in Hiding in Plain Sight, quote, "In the eyes of autocrats and plutocrats, the future is not a right, but a commodity." Do you think Putin feels that way?
Yes, absolutely. Russia has been a mafia state under Putin, and this is part of a growing pattern of mafia states around the world. The modern autocracy, I think, is different from predecessors in that it's transnational. It has no regard for its own people. It sees states basically as land masses to mine for resources. And with Putin, you do see this kind of old school murderous imperialist regime in terms of his actions towards Ukraine, but generally speaking, this is a mafia death cult kind of mentality in which he doesn't care about the suffering of Russians. He doesn't care about kind of the stability of Russia. It's more a matter of the mafia surrounding him, these oligarchs and their various masters and clients.
So then, will this make Putin weaker in the eyes of this mafia cult around him that you talk about?
I think so, but these dynamics are very complicated, and this one in particular, the relationship between Putin and Prigozhin, it's very difficult to understand. I think everyone, including experts on the region, were very surprised yesterday, both by the kind of quasi-invasion and the quasi-withdrawal. I think there's a lot of money that's being passed back and forth. I think there are a lot of promises being made behind the scenes. As for Putin's public image, yes, I think to Russians that have grown up with him, and keep in mind he's been in power since late 1999. There's a whole generation that's known nothing but Putin. This probably came as a surprise. The problem, of course, when you're dealing with an authoritarian regime is that often, public perception of weakness or even public hatred for the ruler does not matter. When people don't have the right to vote, they don't have the right to speak, they don't have the ability to fight back. Now Russians may be dealing with two evils, with Putin or Prigozhin. Prigozhin is also a mass murderer mercenary. So, the options here really aren't great. Belarusian officials who have been behaving, as client state actors for a long time. So, basically, I think there's just a lot that we don't know. And honestly, I don't trust the folks who claim to know what's going on at this juncture in time. I think hopefully, we'll see what's to come over the next few days and, have a little more illumination on this topic.
Right, and so to that point, Sarah, what are you going to be watching for in the next few days in terms of Putin's hold on power or even the Russian people's reaction to what just happened?
I think the Russian people, they're unlikely, at least in my view, to protest. There haven't been really large mass protests since, 2011 was the last time Putin was really threatened. As for Putin's behavior, I'm watching for the speeches. I thought the speech that he gave was unusual. Mostly I'm just watching how this mercenary network operates. And also, I think it's important to look at other countries and their leaders and how they respond to this conflict, in particular, India, China, Israel, Saudi Arabia. This is a transnational network featuring oligarchs, mafiosos, arms traders, people from around the world have a stake in this situation. And I think we may gain some insight as to what Putin's objectives are, as to what, the Wagner group's objectives are, by watching how those outside actors with a financial stake in this react.
One more question for you, Sarah, real quickly. In his fiery speech to the nation yesterday, Russian President Vladimir Putin did not mention the West at all in terms of casting blame. Is that surprising to you?
Yes, it's unusual for him. Usually doesn't pass up an opportunity for that. It did seem that he was taken aback by what was occurring. This was an actual military action. Whether the plan all along was to retreat, I think it's very hard to say at this point. But the optics of it, the possible fear that is stoked, that was real. And they're now moving into this. They now are blaming the CIA and the West, and there's all sorts of rhetoric along those lines. And I think eventually we will fall back into that. But yes, you're right. It is notable that he didn't go there right away.